Some while ago I did a set of videos about the need for a method for enterprise architecture that worked essentially the same way everywhere. Because we cover everything by definition in an enterprise, we need a method that does work the same way everywhere, that works at every scope and scale, every type of content and every type of context. That's the actual need. We also needed to help us avoid falling into anti-patterns. I mean, the classic one of rushing straight into action or rushing straight to a plan without thinking what we're doing. And we also need to balance context-specific and context-neutral. The whole point about having something that works the same way everywhere is that we can keep track of and hold together all the bits that come from all the different spaces that we cover. It's not just IT, we're covering the business models, the operational issues, the skills issues, the finance, operation model, everything that we have to cover over interweaving sets of time and timescales. So that's the requirement. And what we did with it was developed a method called Changemapping, which is what I want to look at in this short series of videos. Now, when we look at a task in a Gantt chart, actually within the Gantt chart, every task is essentially the same. It's just a box marked task. But what we really want to do is to make sure what happens inside that task is exactly consistent. What we need to do is get the right balance between not just doing things right, which is often the only focus, get it efficient, get it exact, get it reliable. That's the classic focus in most of the issues. But what we notice so often is issues like scope creep or doing it without actually thinking about what we're doing it for in the first place. So what we need to do is do the right things, do them right, and also learn from them at every step of the way, so that we can learn and adapt dynamically according to changing circumstances. What we ended up with was what we called CSPAR: context, scope, plan, action, review. And every task is exactly the same. For every task, no matter how much down the detail level, we need to check that we're doing the right context. Is it the right thing? Is it on purpose? We need to check the scope, that we've got the right bit that we're working with, and that we're not going to wander off on scope creep, go on to something else completely different, unless we intend to do it, which we do by iteration. We need to make sure that we've got the plan sorted out and that everything is in place for action, or as best we can. And also that when we're doing the action, we're capturing the insights, the information that we need in order to be able to do a review. And then afterwards we do an after-action review of some kind after every single action. Every task is the same. Check the context, check the scope, work on them if need be. Get the plan sorted out, do the action in the way that you've specified to make sure you've actually done it, do an after-action review. Every single task the same. So we then have what we might call a mission wrapper. We come in with a question, a concern, an issue. How are we going to do a digital transformation, or how are we going to do this sale? Just something very small to something huge to something very small, it's exactly the same. So mission acts as a kind of wrapper. It's actually another CSPAR in its own right. We've got to do the context. What is the context of this question? Who's going to be working on this question? Who's going to be doing the exploration or the action? How do we make sure that this is the right thing and that we get clear about what's going to happen at the end? When we check, we make sure that we've got benefits realised and lessons learned after every single action. And also, who does what? One of the things that we really notice is that everyone rushes into the action, but who's keeping track? Who's the pathfinder or the guide? Who's making sure that we stay on track to method, that we don't get lost? And very often, particularly during an exploration when everyone's diving in and exploring, who's actually capturing the information that we need? The observer. Who's doing that job? So that's what we need around every mission, making sure that each action that we take is on purpose and we know who's doing it and what role each person has. Very much like crew management systems in aircraft. Each person has a particular role. We need to make sure that all the roles we need are covered. Now all of this has to be iterative, it has to be recursive, it has to be fractal, little mini missions that are inside missions, which is what we see on a Gantt chart. The whole cascade of tasks within tasks within tasks. So that's what we built, and that's what the whole idea of change mapping is about, that we always keep track of where we are at all times within any change. Thanks for watching. Do look at the YouTube description for links to further detail. And don't forget to subscribe for other videos, and also to support us on Patreon to help us produce these videos and the tools themselves.